Suicide is a major public health challenge with more than 700,000 deaths each year globally. In Canada, there are around 4,500 suicides each year. That's 12 lives lost every day. Each suicide has far reaching social, emotional, economic consequences and deeply affects individuals and communities worldwide. World Suicide Prevention Day was initiated by the International Association for Suicide Prevention in conjunction with World Health Organization, seen every year on September 10th. It aims to focus attention on the issue, reduce stigma, raise awareness among communities, organizations, governments, and the public, giving a singular message that suicides are preventable. If you know someone that's thinking of suicide or you're worried about someone you may know, call or text 988. It's toll free anytime for support. This event is sponsored by Reach Out Together. It's a Canadian mental health non-for-profit that connects and empowers mental health advocates across Canada. Through our flagship initiative, Canada's Top Mental Health Advocate Awards, we celebrate individuals and organizations making an extraordinary impact in mental health. Today, we will be covering three main important topics. How do you recognize signs and symptoms for early intervention? How do you respond to someone who is having suicidal thoughts? How do you respond to someone that has lost someone to suicide? Without any further ado, let's get into it. My name is Aanchal Vash, the founder at Reach Out Together Foundation. I founded this organization after the passing of my late twin brother, Tushar. After he passed, I did the mental health first aid course. And while I was sitting in class, I had this realization that the signs were there, that his behavior had changed over the last few years, and that my brother was not well. He was not okay. And this lit a fire within me that I need to create awareness. I must educate other people. Why are we not taught these things growing up? Because this could have been prevented. Now, when I look back and, people ask me if you would have known about the hidden signs of suicide, do you believe that things could be different? And I would say knowing just the signs in itself is not enough. So, no, I don't think I could have prevented the loss of my brother. But what I do believe is knowledge is power. There are several factors. For example, obviously, knowing the signs and symptoms, but also what I believe could have helped him is the environment that he was in, the people he was talking to, the people he was being supported by, the places he was going to, the food he was eating, movement levels. Is he getting enough time in nature? There's certain environmental factors that play a crucial role in how we experience life. And so when people ask me, do I think just knowing the signs would have saved him? No, it wouldn't have. Um, Making changes to the environment he was in could have. That's one. The second thing is the response. The response is what you say when you are approaching someone that is not doing well, right? That will determine whether that person is willing to listen or even be supported by you. What you say matters and impacts whether that person will receive the care that you're offering. The third thing is your approach. It's how you say things. I'm not talking about a mental health first aid protocol, like follow these steps and that's enough. I'm saying while you are following these steps, it's very important to keep these three factors in mind: the environment that they are in, how you are responding to them, and your approach, your energy, how you say what you're saying will determine that entire process of how you're supporting the individual who is having thoughts of suicide. So let's dive into the methodology. So the crisis first aid protocol for suicide behavior involves 4 steps. The first is engage the person in a serious conversation. Second step, ask about suicide. Third step, explore and assess the risk. Fourth step, engage the person in a plan for safety. So let's go through this very quickly because we are short on time today. We run courses in depth for organization, community groups. So if you're interested in learning more, please reach out to us via email at info@reachouttogether.com, or you can visit our website at www.reachouttogether.com. Getting back to this, step one is engage the person in a serious conversation. When you are noticing that someone is expressing certain behaviors, you're noticing person around you is not doing okay, you know, or you're aware that someone is having suicidal thoughts, this is a serious concern. So your approach to this should be serious. Ask if they are experiencing a crisis in their life. Are they feeling hopeless or helpless? Have they withdrawn from usual activities? Have they engaged in risk taking behavior recently? For example, drinking or taking drugs excessively, or maybe are they driving too rashly? Notice if they are taking any risky behaviors that could threaten their life further. And I want to encourage you to let them describe how they are feeling and why they are feeling. Do not say things like, I know what you mean. I have been there. Oh, I know someone that went through something like this. No. By you saying things like this, oh, I've been there, you are diminishing what they're experiencing. You're diminishing their pain. So ask questions. This goes to the second methodology, second point. Ask about suicide. Ask, ask, ask. There's this myth that asking about suicide plants a seed, but it actually saves a life. So by asking right questions, you are making this person feel like their pain that's emotional, that's not visible, is actually seen, that people see it, that something is wrong. You can see when someone breaks a hand and they have a plaster, but you cannot see when someone is mentally suffering, when they're in pain mentally. And so acknowledge their pain, ask questions. Hey, are you thinking of killing yourself? Are you having thoughts of suicide? The third step, explore and assess the risk. Ask them, do you have a plan? Have you been thinking about this? Have you created any arrangements? Have you been giving away your clothes? Have you registered a will? Why have you been giving away your prized possessions? Right? By asking these questions, you are now gauging where their mind's at and what level of risk they're at. Are they low risk, medium risk, or are they high risk? If it's a high risk situation, forget about confidentiality and immediately reach out for professional help and other supports. In this case, you do not want to leave this individual alone. You want to be there until professional help is available. If it's a low risk, medium risk, then you can go and move on to offering support yourself. Follow the mental health first aid protocol. Again, if you're interested in learning more about how do you respond to someone in distress, we're happy to get connected with you. Send us an email at info@reachouttogether.com and we'll take it further from there. On this topic of assessing the risk, I think it's also very important to understand where they are. Who are they talking to? Do they have anyone that they feel like they can reach out to when they're not okay? Is there anyone they can call or meet? Are they in touch with any other professional supports? People who feel totally alone and without any resources are at greater risk of attempting suicide. Ask, are you feeling alone and with no support? What resources do you have? Who do you think you could turn to for help? Lastly, fourth step, engage the person in a plan for safety. When a person has a plan for suicide, if they do, work as cooperatively as possible to disable the plan. Do not feel scared or afraid to tell them what it would do to you should something happen to them. Remind them of how their life matters and create a plan for safety for them. Again, if they're high risk, immediately turn to professional help. If it's low to medium risk, you can create a plan for other supports. For example, a family doctor, perhaps, schedule a therapist, a psychologist, perhaps a registered social worker or a mental health worker, coaches, trainers, school or work counseling service. Perhaps there's a community leader that's working in this field. Maybe it's an elder who's has been through something similar. Connect them to resources so they don't feel alone in their struggle. There are also local crisis and distress lines that are available. They're usually free of cost. You can either call, text, or email, and these are free resources. So know that support is available, help is available, but whether a person receives those supports and is willing to really determines, once again, on those three factors I mentioned: the environment they are in, the response from the community, how is the community responding to them, and lastly is the approach of the community. Are you making them feel heard, seen, cared for? Do they know that no matter what happens, no matter how they behave, they can still lean on you? Once again, if you know someone that's experiencing a mental health crisis situation or is having suicidal thoughts, call, text crisis lines or call or text 988. You are not alone. Support is available. Reach out. And our next guest today is Reshma Kearney. She is based out of Los Angeles, California, and is a trauma-informed grief and mindfulness guide. I'm so excited to have you here today, Reshma. I think there's so much we can dive into and help people who are tuned in. To begin with, could you share with the audience what do you do professionally, and why are you really here today to talk on this important topic on World Suicide Prevention Day?
Yeah, thank you, Aanchal. I'm happy to be here. As you mentioned, I'm a trauma-informed grief and mindfulness guide, and I create safe spaces for people who are struggling with their mental health and for people who are supporting those who are struggling with their mental health. I also support those who have lost loved ones to suicide. And I fell into this naturally and also unfortunately because I lost my own husband to suicide um, almost exactly 3 years ago, September 30th, 2022. So I'm here today to talk with you because I think it's really important that we start the conversation and maintain the conversation. This is something that we need to talk about beyond today, beyond this month of suicide awareness, because people are being affected by suicide loss and suicidal thoughts. And it's important to let people know that they're not alone and that we can support each other and heal together.
I really liked something you said the other day about recognizing signs of suicide. Um, and you mentioned something about how even though if you were aware of the signs of suicide, you don't believe that you could have prevented this. Could you elaborate more on this?
Yeah, I actually have a love-hate relationship with the suicide prevention campaigns. Look for the signs of suicide because when I reflect on my loss, there were no signs. And when I say signs, it's what we've learned to look for, which are somebody giving away their possessions, somebody saying, I want to die, disconnecting, losing interest. None of those things were evident in my late husband's final year of life. And so I like to, and we've talked about this before, it's more about looking for the risks of suicide and maybe then becoming more aware of where somebody's mental state is at the time. I think that saying that there are signs of suicide puts a lot of pressure and guilt on the survivors of suicide. And so while I think there should be conversation and we should know what to look for, we have to remember that every case is different and there aren't always signs.
That's really well said. So, how would you advise that someone can gauge the risk?
Risks can include increased anger, irritability, signs of depression and anxiety, maybe talking about feeling overwhelmed. And if there's access to means, or if you see that somebody is seeking access to means, I think those are elevated risks of suicide.
Okay, so when I hear gauge like the level of risk, I think of like low risk, medium risk, high risk. At what point or what signs indicate that urgent intervention is required? Like at what point would you say, based on the level of risk that you are noticing, what would be some signs that you would say are high risk? This person needs immediate help, forget confidentiality. What can I do? What resources can I get right now?
Yeah. Yeah, if a person is saying, I don't want to be here, I don't want to live, I want to die, and then you see that the person has access to means, maybe the person has a plan, maybe the person verbalizes what they would do or why they would not want to be here anymore. I think those are high risk situations. And in that case, it's really important to be with that person, hold space for that person, either physically or keep them on the phone. Ask
Mhm.
them, be direct. Are you thinking about suicide? I think that we just in general, people are afraid to talk about suicide, to ask somebody about suicidal thoughts because we think that we're going to plant the idea, but we're not. We're going to do the opposite. If we keep talking about it and we talk about it with somebody, we are letting people know it's okay to talk about it, right? We're creating a safe environment for someone who's struggling to come out and say, I'm having these thoughts, I need help. So I think when risks do seem high and you've had this conversation and you hear that there are these thoughts, and you think there's an immediate risk, it's best to call 988, text 988, and maybe even consider going to your local emergency services.
Thank you for sharing that. And in the event that you notice that, the risk is not that high, what would be certain things that one could do immediately to provide comfort to the person who's in distress? There's so many things, Reshma, I find that people say that aggravate the situation. I understand they're not mental health trained
Mm-hmm.
professionals. So, what awareness can we create to ensure that people don't say the wrong thing, rather say things that can support their well-being in that moment?
Well, we're all human. So when somebody comes to us hurting, what's the first thing we want to do? We want to fix the problem, right? We want our struggling friend to see all the amazing things that they have in their life and look, the sun is shining, be grateful. But the thing is, when somebody gets to a point where they want to end their life, they are beyond comprehension of gratitude and the bright side of things. They're in a really dark place. And so the best thing somebody supporting a friend or a loved one can do is just sit with them, let them speak, show them with your eyes and your body language, if you're there in person, that you are holding space for them. Assure them that you hear them, you see that they're struggling, and you want to help. And if you can get that person to start opening up about thoughts, then start talking about safety. What can we do in the next hour to make you feel safer?
Mhm.
What can we do to help you? Who on the outside do you think you could trust enough to talk to? And then bridge the connection with the support. Ask them if ask them if they would be comfortable calling 988. Like, would you be comfortable? I'll sit here with you. I will stay on the line with you. We'll call together. Or can we look up a helpline in the area? Get on the computer and do that. Just let them know that you see them and that you're not judging how they're feeling. You want to help them.
There are a lot of gems in this for sure. I know this is a short conversation, but
Mm-hmm.
you're just hitting the nail right there. Your approach, I do agree. I think your approach matters, and creating that space for them where they don't feel judged will
Mm-hmm.
determine whether they're even willing to listen to the resources you're about to offer,
Mm-hmm.
or whether they're just
Yeah.
tuning you out, like, oh, they don't get it. They don't, no one understands my pain.
Yeah.
And so I love what you said about making them feel seen. By that, you mean make their pain feel seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do not be afraid to ask them, have you considered suicide? Because I love that you mentioned that, because we are afraid. There is fear in asking that question. And you're absolutely right. You're not planting a seed. You're actually helping them open up. And it's a form of expression, which may help them process their emotions in that moment in real
Mm-hmm.
time. Reshma, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Imagine how the last few years have looked like for you. When someone is in distress, often the community doesn't know, how to respond, what to say, and that's understandable. But for someone that has lost someone to suicide, healing is so different. The approach is so different of how do you support that individual. I noticed, 9 years ago when my twin brother passed away, that the community showed up, but eventually, like, life moves on and people moved on, and I've not heard from a lot of these people in the
Mm-hmm.
last 8 years. And so, what would you share some tips? How can we as a community support individuals who have lost someone to suicide?
My advice would be take it slow, be gradual, and be patient because it's a really sensitive type of loss. It also has a lot of complexities that even those of us who've lost our person to suicide don't understand, right? So, like you said, there's so many things that are happening in grief after suicide loss. Um, don't ask questions. Again, just like you would support someone who's having suicidal thoughts, take the same approach when supporting someone who's lost somebody to suicide. Just give them space, just be there. Don't ask questions don't ask about details. Don't pass on your own judgment of the situation. Don't ask if they saw signs. It's really hard to comprehend what has just happened and then to have to explain it to other people and feel judged by it. That makes the pain even harder. And I think that whether you're supporting someone who's lost someone to suicide or to any other cause, write down the day that it happened and keep track of milestone days, especially that first year,
Mhm.
right? Check in on that first birthday that they didn't get to celebrate together. Check in on the first anniversary. Don't stop saying the person's name or sharing memories of that person. Keep their memory alive.
Mhm.
Um, the hard thing about suicide loss is that there's so much stigma around it that the people who are left behind feel embarrassed and judged, and we feel like we're carrying on the judgment that maybe their person had. And so, we have to remove the tendency to define people by their mental health. We have to just be more compassionate.
Thank you for sharing that, Reshma. I
Thanks.
appreciate the work you continue to do to break stigma across the world and relentlessly pursue this path. Is there any advice as we wrap this up that you'd like to share to someone that's tuned in that's perhaps not doing very well and contemplating suicide?
I would say give yourself grace and be gentle with yourself. And just remember that our emotions are temporary and suicide is not. And you just never know what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, a year from now. And you owe it to yourself to find out. And don't give up.
And where can people find you, Reshma?
The best place is on Instagram. My handle is Reshma Kearney, and my DMs are always open.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for being here once again. We appreciate you. And we're looking forward to collaborating more on future events. Hopefully,
Me
we'll
too.
have you down here next year for our Canada's Top Mental Health Advocate Awards. It happens every year on July 12th. And yeah, keep going. And if there's anything we can do to offer support, we're with you.
We have to keep talking. Our stories connect us, and that's what we need right now is connection.
Our next speaker is Sajel Bellon. She is a human behavior professor and psychotherapist, founder of Armour and SOS Psychotherapy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure and honor to have you here. Today is Suicide Prevention Day, and it means the world to us that you took a few minutes to share your expertise and help create awareness in our community. Just to begin with, Sajal, could you please share briefly about yourself? What makes you an authority figure to speak on this topic?
This has been a topic that's been so close to my heart since I've been a child because I have not been immune from experiencing suicidal thoughts or navigating tough situations, whether it's somebody else. Even as a young person, as a professional, as a parent, as a community member, I can't tell you the amount of times that suicide has been part of the experience or conversation in my life. And I
Mhm.
feel that that's the story of many, many people out there and often are not sure still on how to navigate. And especially for the people that are maybe experiencing it for the first time, it can be really scary or challenging.
Yeah.
And I really hope that one of the things that I can do with my experience that I'm bringing, both personal and professional, is to make it a little bit more comfortable so that we as a society can start to use the signs and and recognize the signs and signals earlier so that we can actually be of support and destigmatize the social conditioning that suicide and suicidal topics have had in our society. Because I think that's part of the problem.
Today's topic of discussion is stigma to connection. And I know that you've mentioned this many times, humanizing suicidal thoughts.
Mhm.
What does that mean?
It's, in fact, that's the title of my book, subtitle of my book, Tell Me More. And we're doing exactly that, explaining to people how humanizing suicidal thoughts, which means that understanding it from a different lens, taking away the stigma and the shame that forces silence and struggle in our society, in our homes, in our communities, by bringing back the idea that suicidal thoughts are actually natural and that many of us, if not a lot of us or all of us, have them at some point in time, even though we may not recognize it as
Mhm.
that path or in that direction. Some of us will sit in denial because we don't want that shame and because we don't want to be labeled as having those things. And some of us won't even express when we are. So humanizing suicidal thoughts is basically, like I said, bringing it back to our natural human instincts, understanding what the role, purpose, and function of suicidal thoughts actually are in our human experience, which is actually our signals to connect. They are our internal alarm system that whatever we're going through in life right now, or whatever is happening, is maybe too much or overwhelming, and we need connection, we need comfort, we need different perspectives because we can't see another way out ourselves. So, suicidal thoughts are that alarm system that our pain level or threshold is reached its max, and
Yeah.
we need to connect. But we have been teaching our children and ourselves, even as adults, that to do the exact opposite with suicidal thoughts, which is shh, don't tell anybody, you know, hide them or work through them and be high functioning. And I specialize in working with first responders because they're a group, and we have many groups and many occupations where we have high functioning people under high pressure. They
Hmm.
cannot be seen to be struggling. And so very often, whether it's personal or professional, when those pressures exceed the threshold, sometimes it can feel like emotional pain is now turning into physical pain, which then triggers these darker thoughts of stop the pain. Why do you think Tylenol and Advil are so popular? Because we are wired as humans to avoid pain at all costs. So
Yeah.
imagine when that emotional pain becomes physical. And we all know when it does. You can feel it in your stomach, you can feel it in your chest, we can feel it in our throats. Like pain is there when it becomes really high emotionally. And
Yeah.
that's what starts to trigger the same pain receptors in our brain, which is stop the pain at all costs. What do you have to do? And we're smart. Our brains are very smart. They know, well, this isn't physical pain, it's
Mhm.
emotional. And don't know how we're going to get out of this. So we need to end it. And hence the response of a suicidal thought, perhaps. Like, I can't take this anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore.
Mhm.
Um, how long do I have to go through this?
I've noticed, Sajal, that these behavioral patterns
Hmm.
or these feelings, these emotions that people experience, that
Hmm.
pain that they're feeling, the emotional pain, even when people are aware of it, oftentimes people do not feel inspired or feel willing to go seek for professional help or any other supports. Why do you think that is?
Because we've socially conditioned them to do that, to shy away, to feel the shame, to hide. Don't tell anybody you're struggling because then you're perceived as weak. Where it's our natural instinct is actually the opposite. Think about when a baby cries. what do we want to do when a baby cries? We want to comfort that baby. That
Yeah.
baby wants to be comforted. That's why it's crying out for help. But yet, as that very same baby gets older, we now tell the baby, stop crying. I don't want to hear you anymore. Or we tell the child, no, go away, or don't be too loud, don't cry out in public. Or, whether it's gender related, we can tell boys don't cry, and girls shouldn't get angry, and whatever societal conditioning little messages that we're sending, whether it's through our media, through our parenting, through our schools, through our colleagues, through our peers, that's what's shaping how we think and receive these kinds of messages. So, suicide prevention is a huge project. That's
Mhm.
why we need as many people on this to change the messaging behind it. That is our biggest opportunity to change the numbers and the big numbers that we are losing every day unnecessarily. Because remember, it's not just with the loss of the person, it's all the grief that's left behind. Like people are never the same. And you know that personally. And I know what it is that families go through. I know what it is to be a family member that's lost somebody as well. I know what it is to almost have lost people, and been there in that nick of time sort of situation. So this is really important. And this is why we need all teachers, all students, all churches, and any religion that you are, all organizations and leaders. Please allow us to bring these discussions to the table, because when we can educate more people around what suicidal thoughts are really about and what their function is, and then empower people with how to deal with them, whether you're the person going through it, whether you're the person who's perhaps listening to somebody who's going through it. We're going to give you the tools on how to handle and navigate those situations. That's what this book is all about. And
Mhm.
when we can do that, when we can spread that knowledge so that people are more confident and comfortable having these conversations, and again, it becomes so natural, that's when we're going to see these numbers drop. That's when people are not going to feel so desperate and alone. And I think that's key.
That was really well said, Sajal.
Thank you. And I couldn't repeat myself exactly the same again.
I can feel your passion in this.
Thank you.
As you speak. But there are two things that stand out to me. I'm
Hmm.
thinking about that high performer that's out there,
Hmm.
that feels that they have to be a certain way, that they cannot, take that day off, the mental day, take a mental day because how it may look, how it may appear, or people may perceive them that they don't have what it takes. You know, what are some signs? The first part is what are some signs, some behavioral patterns that we as a community can be aware of to notice in these high performing individuals or our happy friends and family? What are those behavioral patterns that we can notice that give us a clue that something is not right, that intervention is required?
Right. So I kind of have a two-prong response to that. One is for the people around that person is looking for signs of fatigue, loss of passion or energy, or even too much energy, that overcompensation part of it. Uh,
Mhm.
Trust your gut. I think you know your people. And when you feel like something's off, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to open that door for the person to be able to say, I need a breather, or yeah, wow, this is a lot.
Mhm.
And don't be afraid to poke a little, for
Yeah.
the people that might be wanting to hide it. Make it safe for them. They're not losing status, they're not losing appearance or strength in any way. What they're actually doing, and this is the other side of that answer, is to the actual person, is I work with some of the highest performing people, and we have come to a place where by sharing on a regular basis, by keeping that pressure cooker in check, they're and blowing off steam every now and then, whether it's ventilation, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, like the self-care aspects, we are actually mitigating, we are reducing times of crisis. All of a sudden, even when crisis hits, they're able to hit that so much better and deal with it and rebound even faster. So when we can incorporate, again, taking the stigma out of taking care of yourself and building in strengthening and self-care into a daily life, into a daily narrative, all of a sudden we're changing the whole game. Crisis doesn't feel insurmountable anymore. It doesn't feel like you can't handle it because you know what? Now you've got the tools and the energy to do it. And so it's amazing the people that I have on my maintenance program, let's say through SOS psychotherapy in my clinic, you know,
Mhm.
a lot of these people came saying, I don't know why I need therapy, or I don't really need it, but somebody said I should come. And, they're the biggest champions now for it. And we've been working on, we're going on 1, 2, 3, 4, some are 5 years, but we're not going on like intensive care because that's not what they need right now. It's just simply maintenance. And through that maintenance and through the education and through the development, personal development that we do at the clinic, they're managing life so much better no matter what is hitting them now. And I have testimonial after testimonial saying that. Like they don't want to leave. Like that's the fun part. They never thought they needed therapy. And you know what? Sessions aren't just about therapy. They're about education. They're about support. It's just so much more. And so finding the right person is key as well. So, and you want to do that when you're in a good state, not in a crisis state. That's another thing that I share with people. So look for somebody when you are at in a good place, because then you can ask the right questions and make sure they're the right fit for you for when times are not great.
Sajel, I feel like we can talk about this for hours.
Absolutely.
There's there's a lot more that we could cover here, but given that, the time's coming to an end, we definitely will have to bring you back to one of our other events to keep this conversation going, and share more tools and resources. Having said that, would you like to share more about your upcoming book and where can people find you?
Absolutely. I have a QR code up here.
Yeah.
There. So scan that, and that gives you absolute free access to my weekly articles that come out. And we cover a world of information and offer different perspectives on things. So please, for free resources to keep up to date with what books are coming out, articles are coming out, and other resources, please scan the QR code. And we would love to have you join the community and have access to everything, and keep up to date with the launch of events and books that are coming out. We have a series of 3 books coming out in the Tell Me More, which again is about humanizing suicidal thoughts. We have our adult version, we have our youth version coming out, and a youth companion guide. So this is meant again to have that multi generational effect because we want to change the language for all of us at the same time. And so the books are coming out like that. And then we will follow up with a first responder special book as well, edition, and so forth. And we're just building the collection that way.
Thank you so much, Sajal, for all that you continue to do to better mental health for everyone. We really appreciate your time, your advice, your knowledge, your expertise. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And sorry, I forgot to mention if anybody needs more information, sagelbellon.com or paintopossibilities.com, and you'll find me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sajal. We'll have you back very soon. To the audience that's tuned in, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have stuck around till the very end, we appreciate you, and we have a free gift for you. Send us an email at info@reachouttogether.com, and a team member will guide you from there. This gift is for the first 5 people that send us an email. So it's first come, first served. Thank you very much. Let's continue to reach out together for better mental health.